The kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is almost here. After a gap of 7 years, this simian universe is about to come back to life with a bang. So the premise goes like this. Nearly 300 years after the events for War for the Planet of the Apes, ape civilizations have emerged from the oasis to which Caesar led his fellow apes, while humans have regressed to a feral primitive state. When the ape king Proximus Caesar, armed with weapons forged from lost human technologies, perverts Caesar's teachings to enslave other clans, a chimpanzee hunter, Noah, would embark on a harrowing journey alongside a human girl named May to determine the future for apes and humans alike. So here in this video, we will dive into who the main characters of this upcoming movie are, and who are their probable ancestors. We will take a look at 3 of them, 2 apes and 1 human, namely Proximus Caesar, Noah and May respectively. So let's get to it. So rather than abandoning the world building of the prequels, this movie would continue in the same universe with a time gap of 300 years between Kingdom and War, which was the last segment of the first trilogy. Here we come to find another Caesar in the midst of the story, and instead of being a chimpanzee, this one, Proximus Caesar, is a descendant of a line of evolved bonobos. Bonobos are sort of like chimpanzees, belonging to the same pangenus. Just as Homo sapiens were different from Neanderthals, so can the same be said about chimps and bonobos. Here we have Kevin Durant as Proximus Caesar, who is an ambitious bonobo ruler that leads a coastal clan of apes in search for human technologies for his own selfish ends, as he wants to be like the mythical ancient humans with powers to fly and to speak across oceans. In one of the trailers, we see Proximus using the "apes together strong" phrase of Caesar, and although he also holds the title of Caesar, he is in no way related to the central figure of the Rise, Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes movies. For one, he is a bonobo and not a chimp, but the name Caesar has become sort of myth and regarded as legend with high honor amongst apes. After all, he is the one that led the apes to freedom, like some sort of a Moses figure of Exodus. Proximus might somehow be related to another character from the original trilogy though, and that is none other than the only other bonobo that has appeared in the franchise, Koba. Like Koba, he is a villain and hates humans. He is also of the same species and shares a very high level of intellect which rivals that of chimps. Although we might not see this in the movie, it might be possible that he is a descendant of Koba, since bonobos were quite rare in the first ape society of the Muir Woods, and also that Koba was a high-ranking member, which would grant him access to females or the only female in that society, and therefore be able to foster successive generations of like-minded evolved bonobos. Now let's take a look at the other ape, Noah, before going to the most mysterious character, who is a human female named May. Noah is shown as a young adult evolved chimpanzee with full speech ability and possessing an incredible mind, as well as having a balanced mindset. He is stated to be an ordinary member of a tribal ape society located in the heartland of North America, opposed to the coastal area of Proximus. But things might not be what it seems. He might belong to a very special lineage of chimps that can be traced back to Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This new hero seems to be more of an underdog rather than a chosen one, which would set up a pretty good story arc and would not be a copycat of Caesar or any of the other older characters. But even though that's what the filmmakers want us to think, I'm pretty sure that this ape is a descendant of the line of the original Caesar, and his ancestry can be traced back to the 2 sons of Caesar, which is Cornelius or Blue Eyes. First of all, Noah seems to share similar facial features of Caesar and his sons, and as the saying goes, like father like son, the genetic heritage would always manifest itself through the generations, especially in facial appearances and body build. Secondly, Noah has a very inquisitive and balanced mindset, which tells us that he isn't just like any ordinary evolved ape. He has a slightly higher intellect and a leadership spirit. He also has a great deal of empathy towards his family, friends, and even the human female May. This is another trait that can be inferred to have been passed on genetically through the line of Caesar. Thirdly, in the last trailer, his father told him that there was much to learn and there was much to teach, which is quite a hint at him eventually finding out his ancestral lineage, which had been kept secret or within a close group through many generations. And then lastly, his eyes. Yeah, he bears slightly bluish green eyes. And it might not seem like much, but it is a telltale sign of something much deeper. See, this goes to the beginning or the genesis of the evolved apes in the first Rise movie. Caesar wasn't the first evolved ape, it was his mother Bright Eyes that was injected with the RNA retrovirus ALZ112, with her being the only ape to get a direct exposure to it. This ALZ112 generated new brain cells and created a much denser cerebral connection in the brain, thus making her smarter than any other ape. This trait was passed on to Caesar, who even as a baby displayed very high intellect. But it was the second version, the ALZ113, that evolved the apes, the majority of them, to have human-like intelligence, while at the same time pushed Caesar's already great intellect to even new heights, making him the most evolved ape mentally speaking. This trait was then passed on to his sons, with the first one having blue eyes, as his name suggests. So this is where we catch up with Noah and his bluish-green eyes, which maybe tells us that he has both the ALZ112 and 113 inside of him, and therefore with that it means that he is a descendant of Caesar from one of his sons. We do know that Blue Eyes died without a son in war for the Planet of the Apes, but at that time he already had a wife in the female chimp called Lake. Whether or not she was pregnant at that time is unknown, but we can speculate. Cornelius didn't have blue eyes but green ones like Caesar, but this doesn't mean that his future sons might not evolve such a telltale trait. Therefore, we might conclude that Noah might either come from Cornelius' line or from an unborn son of Blue Eyes, that is, if Lake was pregnant at that time. Now lastly, let's take a look at May, the only human in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes with the ability of speech and with high levels of intelligence. Given that there are no other humans that can speak, tells us that she couldn't have learned English all by herself, and that either she was taught by other apes or there is another even stranger origin story attached to her. She is given the name Nova by Noah and Raka, a reference to the character of the same name from War for the Planet of the Apes. She later reveals that she has her own name, which is May, which tells us that someone gave her that name. And given that humans have regressed to a feral state, therefore naturally it couldn't be one of them. This leaves us with three possibilities, which we shall explore now. Possibility number 1. She was either raised by apes like Nova from War of the Planet of the Apes, found as a child with the immunity to the effects of the ALZ113. But this theory doesn't explain how she knows a great deal about human technology, where to find lost archaeotech, and that the tech there belonged to ancient humans and not apes. Okay, possibility number 2. She is someone that came out of a doomsday shelter after ages underground, or she might be a mutant, very much like the Vault people of Fallout. But this is also highly unlikely as there were no breakaway civilization shelters as of the timeline of the first trilogy, and that 300 years would have been impossible for any shelter to be able to sustain a human population. This leads us to possibility number 3. She might be one of the astronauts from the spacecraft Icarus that was sent to Mars in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, only to be told that it was lost in space. This would mean that the spacecraft might have entered a time anomaly. This actually is a recurring plot, a time anomaly thing that was also explored in the original 1968 movie and the 2001 remake. This might also explain her knowledge of human technology, her unaltered intellect, and that the technology Proximus was searching for might be the spacecraft Icarus itself. So that's our theories and what we think on the identities of the three characters of the new movie, Noah, Proximus, and May. Now if you like this video, then watch this other one as well, and do check out our channel for other ape content. We might have things you haven't seen before. Ho 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 ho, ape together, strong! Like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care, apes!